We think we know it. We look at maps, we hear facts, we memorize country capitals in school. But then, every once in a while, you come across a fact so mind-blowingly bizarre that it makes you question everything. Like, how can a country be bigger than a continent but have fewer people than a city? Or how is it possible that an entire time zone exists just 45 minutes off from the rest? Today, we're diving into 15 geography facts that make absolutely no sense. The kind of facts that will make you do a double take and say, wait, what? Let's get into it. 1. Australia is wider than the moon. Okay, picture the moon. Now picture Australia. You'd think the moon, an actual celestial body, would be way bigger, right? Wrong. Australia stretches about 4,000 kilometers, 2,485 miles, from east to west, while the moon's diameter is only 3,474 kilometers, 2,159 miles. That means Australia is over 500 kilometers, 300 miles, wider than the moon. Just imagine aliens looking down at Earth and seeing this massive landmass spread wider than their own planet's moon. If that doesn't mess with your sense of scale, I don't know what will. 2. The deepest hole ever dug by humans is in Russia, and we still didn't reach the mantle. Russia doesn't just dominate the land above ground, but it also holds the record for the deepest hole ever dug. Back in 1970, Soviet scientists started drilling a hole to see how deep they could go into Earth's crust. And as a result of this, the Kola Super Deep Borehole, a staggering 12.2 kilometers, 7.6 miles, deep. That's deeper than the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the ocean. Even after digging that deep, they were still nowhere near reaching Earth's mantle. Scientists estimate the crust is about 30 to 50 kilometers thick, so even after drilling for over 2 decades, they barely made a dent. Oh, and at that depth? The temperature reached a blistering 180 degrees Celsius, 356 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to destroy their equipment and force them to abandon the project. That's right, we can send people to space, but we still haven't managed to dig deep enough to see what's beneath our own feet. 3. Papua New Guinea has more languages than any other country. How many languages do you think a single country can have? Maybe 50? Nauru? Nope. Papua New Guinea has over 840 languages. That's 12% of all the world's languages spoken in just one country. To put that into perspective, if you took every language spoken in Europe, North America, and South America combined, you still wouldn't match Papua New Guinea's linguistic diversity. Imagine walking from one village to another and hearing a completely different language spoken every few miles. How do people even communicate? Answer: many speak Tok Pisin, a Creole language that evolved as a common tongue. Still, good luck learning 840 languages if you ever move there. 4. California has more people than Canada. Okay, so before we move on, let's take a quick geography quiz. Which place has more people? A. Canada, the second largest country in the world, or B. California, a single U.S. state? If you guessed Canada, you'd be dead wrong. Canada has about 39 million people. California, over 39.5 million. So let's get this straight. A state in the U.S. has more people than an entire country that's 25 times bigger? That's like saying your backyard is bigger than a football stadium. Yet somehow the stadium is emptier. 5. Nepal's time zone is 45 minutes off. Time zones are usually simple, right? 1 hour ahead, 1 hour behind. Nice and clean. But Nepal said, nah, we do things differently. Nepal's time zone is UTC plus 5 hours and 45 minutes, meaning it's 5 hours and 45 minutes ahead of London. Why? Because they base their time on a random mountain peak instead of using normal time zone divisions. So when it's 12 p.m. in London, it's 5:45 p.m. in Kathmandu. It's like Nepal saw the whole world following round-numbered time zones and thought, let's spice things up. 6. Africa can fit the US, China, India, and Europe with room to spare. Look at any world map, and Africa doesn't seem that big, right? Well, that's because most maps lie to you. The Mercator projection, the map style used in classrooms and online, completely distorts the size of land masses, making countries near the equator look way smaller than they actually are. In reality, Africa is absolutely massive and so big, in fact, that you could fit the entire United States, all of China, India, and most of Europe inside it, and still have room to spare. To put that into numbers, Africa spans 30.4 million square kilometers, 11.7 million square miles, making it the second largest continent in the world. But thanks to how maps are drawn, people tend to severely underestimate its size. If Africa were shown to scale on most maps, it would look like the true giant it is, rather than the relatively medium-sized landmass people often perceive it to be. So next time you glance at a world map, remember to trust the numbers, not the maps. 7. Sudan has more pyramids than Egypt. Ask someone where the pyramids are, and they'll say Egypt. But guess what? Sudan actually has more pyramids than Egypt. Sudan is home to over 200 ancient pyramids, compared to Egypt's 138. These pyramids were built by the Kingdom of Kush, an ancient African civilization that thrived for centuries. But because Egypt stole the spotlight with the whole Great Pyramid of Giza thing, Sudan's pyramids don't get nearly as much attention. 8. Norway has a longer coastline than Russia. Okay, Russia is the biggest country in the world. It stretches across 2 continents and has thousands of miles of coastline. But here's where things get weird. Norway, a tiny country compared to Russia, has a longer coastline. Wait, what? Yep, Russia's coastline is 37,653 kilometers, 23,396 miles, while Norway's is over 100,000 kilometers, 62,000 miles. But how? Fjords. Norway's coastline is packed with countless fjords, bays, and islands, making its shoreline 3 times longer than Russia's when measured properly. Basically, if you tried walking Norway's entire coastline, you'd be walking forever. 9. There's a country that's literally disappearing. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that your entire country is slowly sinking into the ocean. Sounds like a dystopian movie plot, right? But for the people of Tuvalu, this is their terrifying reality. Tuvalu, a tiny island nation in the Pacific Ocean, is one of the lowest-lying countries on Earth, with an average elevation of just 2 meters above sea level. Thanks to rising ocean levels, Tuvalu is literally vanishing. Scientists predict that within the next 50 to 100 years, the entire country could be completely underwater. Tuvalu has already started moving online. In preparation for its disappearance, the government is working on creating a digital version of Tuvalu, a virtual replica that will preserve its culture, landmarks, and history even after the land itself is gone. It might become the first country to exist purely in the metaverse, a nation going from physical reality to a digital archive. That's actually some next-level geography madness. 10. There's a place on Earth that hasn't seen rain in 2 million years. Think the Sahara Desert is the driest place on Earth? Think again. Deep in Antarctica, there's a region called the McMurdo Dry Valleys, and it's so dry that it hasn't seen rain in over 2 million years. That's right. While the rest of the world has gone through ice ages, mass extinctions, and even human civilizations rising and falling, this place has remained a bone-dry wasteland. But how is that even possible? The reason lies in something called katabatic winds, powerful, dry winds that blow at speeds of up to 200 miles per hour, 322 kilometers per hour, evaporating any trace of moisture before it can settle. Scientists even say the McMurdo Dry Valleys are the closest place on Earth to Mars in terms of climate. In fact, NASA tests their Mars rovers there before sending them to space. So yeah, you are lucky because at least you're not in a place that hasn't seen rain in 2 million years. 11. The Amazon has a river that boils like a kettle. Deep in the Amazon rainforest, there's a river that defies all logic. Its waters are so hot that they can literally boil anything that falls in. Known as Shanay Timpishka, or the boiling river of the Amazon, this incredible natural wonder is one of the largest thermal rivers in the world. Here, the water reaches temperatures of nearly 95 degrees Celsius on average, with the hottest recorded spring hitting a scorching 99.1 degrees Celsius, just shy of the boiling point. At its deepest, the river plunges 4.5 meters, 15 feet, and at its widest, it spreads to 30 meters, 100 feet. But what makes this river so fascinating is that it's nowhere near a volcano. Instead, the water is naturally heated by the Earth itself. As the river flows, it passes over geologic fault zones where superheated groundwater from deep underground rises to the surface, turning an ordinary jungle stream into a deadly boiling cauldron. 12. There's a place where you can stand in 4 states at once. Ever wanted to be in 4 places at the same time? Well, in the US, you actually can. There's a spot called Four Corners, where the states of Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico all meet at a perfect intersection. If you position yourself just right, you can literally stand with each limb in a different state. The actual Four Corners location isn't even where it's supposed to be. Yep. Due to surveying errors back in the 1800s, the marker for Four Corners is actually 2.5 miles off from where the states technically meet. But since everyone already built a tourist attraction there, they just left it. So, if you've ever visited Four Corners and thought, wow, I'm in 4 states at once, swing, technically you weren't. 13. You could walk from North Korea to Norway in a straight line without crossing any oceans. Okay, take a second to visualize a world map. Now, imagine drawing a straight line from North Korea all the way to Norway without crossing any oceans. Sounds impossible, right? But here's the mind-blowing part. It's 100% real. If you start in North Korea and go west, your path would take you through China, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, Russia, and a few other countries before finally reaching Norway. That's a straight-line journey of over 8,000 miles entirely on land. That means you could technically drive from Pyongyang to Oslo without ever needing a boat. You just need to pass through a whole lot of countries and, well, good luck getting permission for that. Still, the fact that you can cross the entire Eurasian landmass in a straight line without touching water? Mind blown. 14. The Dead Sea is so salty, you can float without trying. If you've ever struggled to float in a pool, don't worry, there's a place on Earth where you literally can't sink, even if you tried. The Dead Sea, located between Jordan and Israel, is one of the saltiest bodies of water on the planet. It's nearly 10 times saltier than the ocean, which means it's so dense that anything heavier than air just floats effortlessly. People visit from all over the world just to experience lying on their backs in the water without sinking. It's basically nature's version of an inflatable pool float. But here's the sad part that the Dead Sea is shrinking fast. Due to climate change and water diversion, it's losing about 3 feet, 1 meter, of water every year. Scientists estimate that in a few decades, the Dead Sea might just be a salty wasteland. So, if floating like a human buoy is on your bucket list, better visit while you still can. 15. Antarctica is technically the world's largest desert. When you think of a desert, what comes to mind? Probably endless sand dunes, scorching heat, and camels, right? Well, surprise. The biggest desert on Earth isn't hot or sandy. It's Antarctica. Yep, Antarctica, the coldest place on Earth, is also the driest. Deserts aren't just about heat. They're defined by how little precipitation they get. And since Antarctica only receives about 2 inches of snow per year, it meets the definition perfectly. To put that into perspective, the Sahara Desert gets more rain than Antarctica. So, while Antarctica may look like a giant ice cube, it's actually just a massive frozen desert, the largest in the world. Which of these blew your mind the most? Let me know. And if you want even more insane geography facts, I've got plenty more where that came from. Thanks for watching.